Here we have Demonic Instigator. This is blue, red, and colorless for a 7/7. J Resonators, your opponent's control must attack this card if able. Whenever this card is dealt damage by a J Resonator, this card deals that much damage to that J Resonator. This is one of those cards that it's never going to be great in Tier 1 decks, but people will probably try to play it a bunch in really cute Johnny Combo style decks. For example, if you have this in a blue, white, red deck and you try to throw Flak Jacket on it from the Vingolf set, it's just going to prevent all the damage that's dealt to this, and it'll be an infinite blocker forever that their creatures must tap out every turn to play, which, it's cute and it's, fun. It's never going to be Tier 1. There will be players that try to force it, don't get me wrong. I know there are other combos out there that you can pair with this guy, such as Power of Unity, where you can make it so that, he gets +6/+6, and anytime he deals damage to a creature, he deals that much to that controller too. So it's gonna be it'll be interesting, but never great. Here we have the Dragon of Scenic Beauty. This is a green, white, and 2 colorless for a flying quick cast 700/800. You may pay 1 white and 1 green less to play this card if you cancel the spell your opponent controls this turn. This guy here I do not see as good, not even a little bit, because in order to even get the discount on him, you are going to have to cast him off, and discounting any ramp spells like elves. You gotta have 6 will available to do that. You're having to have like Seal of Wind and Light or Keen Sense, unless you're getting something with Wall of Wind. But and just the base stats. I know it's a 7/8 flyer, but for the mana, the decks that would run this guy have much better answers. They have Gwyber and things of that nature that would fill the same slot as this guy and are just far superior. Now we have Death at Midnight. This is a 1 black, 1 colorless, quick cast chant. Your opponent banishes a Resonator, and then you put a 1/1 counter on each J Resonator your opponents control. This card here is another one that will be very good in the deck that it is played in and very bad in all other decks. The deck that this is played in will be a Mikage style, First Daughter style deck where we'll show you the First Daughter here later, but the First Daughter is a rare from the set that when she comes into play, she grabs all 1/1 counters from other creatures and puts them on herself. There are other abilities and cards that deal damage or kill creatures that have 1/1 counters on them, and if you can build your deck up to do that sort of mechanic, this card is great. It's just, they get to sack something away, and you're going to get to utilize the counters on their creatures. Other regular control decks, I just hate this card. Imagine playing this against like a Turbo Gwyber style deck or a Knight style deck where they're just going to sack away their smallest, most useless thing, and everything else is going to get bigger, and you're going to take way more damage and way more punishment by casting this spell. So the deck that it's good in, sure. Do I think it'll be Tier 1? Probably not, but it'll be, be fun to play. But yeah, everything else, I would say no on this guy. Right here we have Deceptive Dream. We have black, blue, 2 colorless. When this card enters your field, your opponent discards a card. When this creature is put into a graveyard from the field, you may draw a card. It is a 7/7. Its abilities are super great. It's fun. It's fine. But I would play this card at like a black, blue, and no colorless casting cost. But once you start getting into a 4-drop range, it's not enough bang for the buck, in my opinion. There's so many other cards in that same range of will cost that just do so much better in the decks that would want to play this guy. Up next, we have Fishing. Fishing is a card that I am very excited to see if anybody's going to try to make work, because I have a feeling that if you can make it work, it'll work really well. So this is a chant. It is 1 blue, put the top card of your deck into your graveyard. If it was put into your graveyard this way, put in X100 Fantasy Water Darkness Resonator token into play. Here we have your fantasy token to look at there. Now, this card here has the potential for some very goofy shenanigans in decks like Charlotte, with things like laying the foundation, let you draw cards and put cards from your hand on the top of your library. There are an astronomical amount of very, very, high casting cost, high powered creatures, even like the Chimera we spoke on earlier that was the 15/15. It leads to being very broken if you can get it to go off, and there are other ways to multiply your tokens in this set. But the deck is going to require a bit of setup. You are going to have to see what the top card of your library is, or know because you put it there. So I would like to see this card in Xi'an. You would have to kind of go pretty hard into this type of a build in Xi'an. You're not going to be able to just run your regular like Xi'an hook and play this, because you just much rather have hook in that style of build. But I think that this is another one of those cards that falls under the category of it will make a really, really cute deck, and you might even win some games with it. I don't think it's going to be tier 1. This one has the potential to be a little bit more, closer to being like very, tier 1-ish, but I don't think it'll ever quite get there. But let me know your thoughts and opinions on that guy. I'm interested to see how that one's going to work. This guy here is the Fairy of Recurrence, I suppose, gal. This is 1 red, 1 white for a 4/4 flyer that when it enters your field, search your library for another copy of this card, essentially, and put it into your hand. This card is very exciting to me. There have been other cards such as Squadron Hawk and Magic that was this similar effect, and in other games where cards like this have existed, they have had the ability to completely take over entire metagames. I know it doesn't seem like a 400 is that great, but if you consider the fact that you're able to, depending if you have Energize or not, drop 1 down on 1 or 2, and then go turn 3 and then the other 2 on turn 4, you're going to have 16 points of flying damage that is spread out over 4 creatures, so they have to have a bunch of removal, and it has the potential to just get overwhelming and with an overrun style of flying play like this. And in a deck with this, you'd run things like Crimson Light just to get the last few points in. The burn spell for 600 lets you draw or gain 600. So I think this guy here has the potential to be all-star-ish in the decks that would play it. And I'm actually thinking that most decks that are going to be red-white that aren't just straight knights should really tip their hat and consider this card. I mean, I think it's going to get underrated a lot, but I think if you give it a shot and you play it, that you'll be, very impressed by its performance. Here we have our first potential tool for Turbo Gwyber. This is green-white. It's a quick cast. It's Faria Summon. Search your deck for a Resonator, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. If you torrented, so if this is the second or more card you've cast this turn, recover up to 1 target Magic Stone, essentially making this cost 1. This card is awesome. I know there's a lot of debate over whether or not Turbo Gwyber should play this or not, and I do not think it should be played in the main deck. However, I think it should be a solid 4 of in the side deck against any really good, really decent control deck that's going to be able to try to keep your board clear. Things like Mikage control, stuff like that are just really bad matchups for you. This allows you late game to, go through your library, search for your Gwyber, get your Gwyber into play, and most times if you have a Regalia you're just sitting back on, you can even spit out the token there too. So tutor effects in all games are just great, period. Tutor effects are never, ever bad unless their casting cost is just ridiculous, and this thing is absolutely priced in on the casting cost. I mean, most of the time it's going to cost you 1. At worst, it's going to cost you 2. It's something you can do on your turn prior to untap. So even if you wanted to cast 2 in one turn, you can trigger Torrent off the first one, and this card should see a bunch of play. I would not blame anybody or say anything to them for playing him in the main. I think it's a very suitable option, but absolute must in the sideboard, I think. in that style of deck. Next, we have Feasting's Monocle. This card is meh. It's okay. It's not great. I know that Feasting herself is a rare that when you use her inheritance ability, you get to find this and put it into play for free. The only issue with that is the style of deck that you're going to want to play inheritance in is the style of deck that is not going to want to commit one of its creatures all the time to tapping for will. I don't think this card is great. I don't think it should see play. I know it will see play because people will put like a 1 or 2 of in any deck that they're going to put the new Feasting in. But I'm not a fan of this whatsoever. It is a bestow card, so you got to throw it on one of your guys, and then those guys have to tap for the colors for you. Here we have arguably the strongest sideboard card in this set. We have Gale Force. It is a 1 green, quick cast, destroy target resonator with flying. This card is just phenomenal. It is broken. It takes down Gwybers. It takes down Titanias. It takes down Lucifers. It takes down Celestial Wing Seraphs. It takes down so many good top deck tier 1 threats. And it does it for a cost of 1. And it does it as a quick cast. And if you're playing in green, you should have some number of these in your sideboard. I wouldn't say main because the decks that it's bad against, it's just a dead card against. But the decks that it is good against, it is just ridiculously good against. So if you're in these colors, I would say you're not doing things right if you don't have at least 2 of these in your side. Arguably up to a playset depending on what your current metagame at your current store is. But just phenomenal. Next, we have our second Chimera from this set. We have Griffin Racing Across Darkness. This guy is 1 black, 1 green, and 4 colorless for a 12/12 flyer. When this card enters your field, put the top 2 cards of your Magic Stone deck into your field. It's a pretty decent mechanic. It's a pretty decent sized body, and it has flying. This is another one that's going to fall strictly into that category of the other Chimera, where he's got a high enough casting cost and where he's probably only going to see play in that Ninetales deck. But if that Ninetales deck is good, it will be an all-star, absolute all-star. So once again, we'll just kind of sit back and see how well this Ninetale deck does. The next card is kind of shaking things up a little bit in the Force of Will community, and I would be surprised and shocked and astounded if this card did not lead to an errata on a card. This card is Cruciblesta's Secret Tech. This is black and green and quick cast, and target Magic Stone becomes a 1,000/1,000 resonator with swiftness until end of turn, and it is still a Magic Stone. The card by itself is okay. It probably would never see play in any actual constructed deck. The issue comes into place when you pair it with Memoria Arla. It may be a little hard to read, but its ability basically says, when it's flipped over into its J-Ruler side, whenever a resonator you control attacks, you may untap target Magic Stone. The issue with that being your Magic Stone is a resonator, so you would tap to attack with Magic Stone. The ability from Arla would go on the stack, and you would untap said Magic Stone. So you can just keep attacking with it over and over and over again. It is, infinite combos in every card game that have ever been made have always been abused. People will try actively and try super hard to force these into decks to make them good, because if you get it off, you just win. Now, the problem with this is normally infinite combos are at least 2 cards. I'm pretty sure I don't know of any other 1-card infinite combos. I know you're going to argue and say this is 2 cards, but 1 is your ruler. It's starting in play. You don't need to draw it. This is a 1-card combo. The other issue is, if this was, the color combination it's in is just amazing. It's green and black. If you splash a little bit of blue in there, you can pretty much just run like a stealth package, a stealth control package with Arla, and just spatter 4 of these into the deck. You can run your regular stealth deck that you would try to win with, and just have these to try. You know, you draw it and you're like, hey, do you have an answer for this? If not, I just win the game. If you do have an answer, okay, cool, let's keep playing because I have a legitimate stealth control deck here. So I would say, in my best assumption, that they're going to probably errat Arla to say whenever a non-Magic Stone Resonator you control attacks, untap target Magic Stone. If they do not do that, expect to see this. It will come into your metagame. Arla's still fairly cheap at the time of making this video. The full arts were still less than $4 or $5. And the cards are just, like I said, this... People will always try to force infinite combos. They'll always do that. You know, it doesn't matter how good or how bad they are. And this one is actually really, really good. The colors that would run this are the same colors that are going to be phenomenal at keeping your board clear of blockers, so that you can just try to cast this off. And if you don't have a counterspell or an answer to the creature, you just lose on the spot. So let's hope that they do a little rat on this. Otherwise, definitely make sure that you are sideboarding appropriately, because this will be something that you will see. People will build this. It will come up. Here we have Ghost of Atrocitia. I screwed that up. Everybody in my store fights about how to say Ataraxia. This is a 1 black, 1 blue, 100/300 resonator. It's a fantasy resonator. When this, whenever this card deals damage to your opponent, draw a card and your opponent discards a card. Seems good, seems okay. The only issue is it's a 1/3. It literally dies to everything. Every resonator they're going to play, every spell that they have in their hand, you know, there's never really going to be a time where this is going to be a card that you really, really, really want to have in play. If you're building a deck that's based around drawing or based around them discarding, you might want to splash it, but it's never going to be something that's going to see a bunch of play in Tier 1 decks, in my opinion. It's just too weak. If they'd given it evasion or something, even with a weak body that dies everything, give it flying, something along that lines, maybe. But as it is, I would say not. Here we have the Healing Wing Dragon, excuse me. This is 1 red, 1 white, 3 colorless. It's a flying 12/12. When it enters your field, you gain 1,000 life. This is kind of something they printed for that Blink package, the whole, remove a creature from the game, put it back into play type effects. And it's good, like if you're playing casually or if you want to make a tribal dragon deck, things of that nature. I don't think it's going to see a ton of play in actual constructed play, though, just because the decks that you would run it in, these red-white decks, are going to be more aggro-based decks. They're going to be faster. And I think just as a 5-drop, it's just not going to be awesome. The decks that you'd want to gain 1,000 life against, most of the time would hopefully want to have you dead before you can drop this. So not a huge fan, but like I said, there's always going to be people that try to force, Dragon Tribal and life gain decks and things of that nature. And this card does fit into those decks fairly well, but for more casual play. Here we have Illusory Projection. This is a 1 black, 1 blue, 400/400. When this card is put into the graveyard from your field, put a 400/400 Water Darkness Fantasy Resonator token onto your field. We have the token right here for you to look at. It is the backside of the other X100 token. This card here, I am very curious to see. This is going to be very wide open. I know Valentina, as a ruler in this set, has the potential to be extremely broken. I mean, just absurdly top tier 1 broken ruler with the cards that she has available to her, the spot removal spells, things like Endless Nights, and things, especially things like Space Time Anomaly. And in those decks, you may want to run a package of token producing things like this, guys that replace themselves when they die. And if you run it with the new Mooj Dart, each one of these tokens automatically becomes, as 800/800. Same with this creature, because it gets pumped for being black and it gets pumped for being blue. So I am thinking that this card could very well see play. I'm not sure if it will be great, or if the decks that are going to run it are going to want to run more creatureless control, maybe just a stealth package. Stealth would probably be better. But if you're to that point where I know a lot of people are, where you're kind of getting burned out on stealth just a little bit because it's everywhere all the time, no matter what, this is definitely a suitable secondary option for you to try to use. Here we have Illusion Wizard. This is 1 black, 1 blue, 1 colorless. It's a 5/5. When it enters your field, put a 4/4 Water Darkness Fairy Resonator token onto your field. This card is literally the exact same discussion that we just had with the last one. The same deck that would play the last card would play this card. They're both identical pretty much in their versatility and their usability. So same category as the other one. If you're going to make that deck, if you want to avoid stealth, this is a good option for you to put in there. Here we have Invisible Flame. This is 1 colorless and 1 red for a 6/6 inheritance. The inheritance is the same as the casting cost on this one. It's 1 red, 1 colorless. Discard it. This card deals 600 damage to target J Resonator. It's okay. It's not super great. I think that the decks that would consider playing this would be things like burn decks, but I think burn decks have much better things to do with their will than this guy here. If it said target J Resonator or player, I would say sure, throw it in there. You can still go to face with it. But as is, maybe sideboard, maybe, but probably not even then. So not a big fan of that guy.